kind of like an Exorcist type vibe. And I'm sad to say that that is not the film that we got. Okay, so I can't promise that this video won't be all over the place, but I'm here to review The Reading starring Monique Hicks. It's available on the BET Plus platform. It was directed by Courtney Glaude. I don't know if I'm saying his name right, but it's spelled with a G and not a C. And it was produced by Lee Daniels. This movie is all about a woman by the name of Emma Leeden. She ends up writing a tell-all book after her family is tragically killed in a home invasion. To help her get over the psychological damage of her family's death and to gain closure, her publicist slash sister-in-law stages a spiritual medium to come and make contact with her family in hopes of giving Emma some closure. But things begin to go awry when what the sister-in-law believes is a fake medium actually has real psychic abilities. You get that baseline, and you get that you are getting ready to deal with a story very much in like the veins of kind of like an Exorcist type vibe. And I'm sad to say that that is not the film that we got. It's not to say that the film that we got is all bad, but the film that we were promised is not the film that we received. Okay, so first, let me take you back a little ways. I'm going to take you all the way back to, I feel like the year was 2008. Correct me if I'm wrong. 2009. And a little film called Precious hits the screens, and it gets tons and tons and tons of buzz at all of the major film festivals. And it is the debut of Gabourey Sidibe's first acting performance. It's Precious, based off of the novel. And Monique Hicks, the late night talk show host, comedian, is getting Oscar buzz. And she then wins the Oscar for her performance as Precious's abusive mother. Following her decision to not promote the video during the award season cycle, and especially because a lot of those promotions are either written into your contract beforehand, or you do them for free because it's going to help you generate buzz, publicity. It's going to help you promote yourself for the next role as well. She refused to do that, and she ultimately gets what she believes and what many others believe is blackballed in Hollywood. And she's been talking about it. You'd have to be under a rock to have not heard Monique talk about this over the past 12 years of her career. And she's been in a couple of roles since then. Probably most notably Almost Christmas, which she played Aunt May, which was a really good role in 2016. But since then, she really hasn't been in anything else. And so somewhere last year during quarantine or post-quarantine, she did a stand-up show in which she reconciled with Lee Daniels. They hugged, they mended ways, and he promised that he was going to put her in a couple of projects that he had coming up. And this is seemingly the first of two projects that she is going to do with Lee Daniels. Likewise, she's also going to be doing a Netflix special. So she finally got her Netflix special that she wanted everyone to boycott for her to get, and that'll be coming out in the next month or so. This was not directed or written by Lee Daniels. In fact, the writer of this movie is the director, Courtney Glaude. And I'm assuming that this is someone that Lee Daniels has found, and he's maybe trying to nurture or mentor this individual and ask Monique to be in this, and this is kind of her return to the screen. So I missed the buzz about this movie. This movie actually came out about 3 weeks ago, and I just so happened to be scrolling on TikTok when I saw a brief clip of the movie's trailer and decided to watch it. It had nothing better to do, and I had just watched Megan again after having seen it in the theaters. I was like, oh, I'm down for some horror. I usually, you guys know, I don't do a whole lot of horror, but I was like, it's Monique, let's give her a shot. She's been wanting this for a long time. Let's support. And so I sat down to watch it. The initial premise seems promising and was promising. The idea of this woman whose family was killed in a horrific home invasion, and she writes this book, and then she goes to see a medium who's going to help her connect with her family, and some evil spirit is going to kind of reach out and try to touch them, and they have to escape. I usually don't go with the spooky spiritual stuff, but I decided to give it a shot. This movie is not that. So the movie is actually centered on the protagonist, whose name is Sky, the young medium. She's a college student who has this psychic ability, and she and her friends are doing this in order to make money for school. Sky's mother is poor. She comes from a poor upbringing, and so she doesn't actually want to do this. It's actually dangerous. Her friends know that she has the ability, but they don't really know how severe that this could be. Like, reaching out into the ether to touch spirits can be very detrimental, and she really wants to stop doing this, but this is like their last job that they're going to perform. And so you're following Sky into, which is seemingly this horrifically sad case where, for the most part so far, she's just been getting a lot of people trying to, talk to their dead parents, and nothing too traumatizing. And the first 20 minutes of the movie are actually pretty okay. Interestingly enough, if you watched A Different World, Charnel Brown, who played Kimberly Reese, is in this, which I haven't seen her in anything so other than A Different World. So it was interesting to see her play a character who wasn't Kimberly Reese, and to, not look like the Kimberly Reese that I see every time I watch reruns of A Different World. The first 20 minutes of this movie is promising. The acting by Monique is solid. You definitely can tell that, she's got some cobwebs, some dust that she needs to kind of brush off. You see a lot of her mannerisms that are kind of like carryovers from Precious in this role as well. But the first 20 to 25 minutes, she is doing a very comparable. That's not the word I'm trying to say. I think the word I'm trying to say is capable. I don't know if it's capable. I don't know. I'm an English teacher, but it's late at night. Words escape me. And then after the first 25 minutes, things fall apart for me. Now, if you go into this movie watching it as a horror comedy, you will be fine. I was not expecting a horror comedy. And so realistically, what I was expecting was, if this is Lee Daniels' way to make amends to Monique, he's going to present her with a very meaty role, something that has some to it, something that is well written, something that is well directed, something that is going to perhaps put her in the conversation again for other roles, because that's what essentially this is supposed to be. This is supposed to be him making amends to her, and her getting an opportunity to reclaim those lost years as an actress that she missed being blackballed in Hollywood. I don't want to say that because it went straight to streaming that necessarily put me on guard so much, because we've had lots of good movies that have gone straight to streaming, especially in this new day and age. And I could also see both Lee Daniels and Monique, who both have been very outspoken about creating things for Black platforms, where I could see them pushing this to BET, not because of the lack of quality, but for the purpose of giving BET a major film that they wouldn't otherwise be able to get. That being said, if you go into this movie expecting a serious horror movie, you will be sorely disappointed. That is not what you will get. If you go into the movie expecting that you're going to laugh and that it's going to be a comedic take on things and that you're going to get a incomplete story, then that's what you will get. The other performances in here are unfortunately barely worth mentioning. The director actually shows up in one of the scenes as the homeless guy. Charnel Brown actually wasn't that bad as in her very brief role as the mother, but I can't even say it's the acting, guys. The script is just not great. It's very thin. What starts out as a good premise very quickly falls short. Things that are teased at the beginning of the movie are not followed through towards the end. Then there are things that are teased at the end of the movie which weren't developed in the movie, so then they make no sense. And so in that regard, it was disappointing. With regards to Monique's performance, it was comedic, it was enjoyable, it was entertaining. If I was going off of entertainment factor alone, this movie would be a good solid 8 out of 10. As it is, I have to deduct points and give it a 7 out of 10. Now for me, I take that as that's a C. If we were in school, that's a C. And I'm probably being a little generous with that. But I have to remember that there are movies that you can watch for fun and enjoyment, and there are movies that you can watch to be serious experiences in film going with good cinematography, great scripts, great performances. And this is not that. And so if I'm going off of just entertainment wise, then it was good. It was decent. It was average. I would not watch it again, but I know that lots of people who don't want to teeter too much into scary movies would watch this again, no questions asked, and would enjoy it again. And so that is my rating of the movie, but I want to get into some spoilers now. So if you are down for some spoilers and you have already watched the reading, then stick around because I'm going to do spoilers now. So the problems that I have with the movie, the initial premise of this woman, Emma Leeden, coming home from a long day, making food for her family, and her family being brutally killed. Those first 10 minutes of this film were horrifying to watch. Were so heartbreaking and so heart-wrenching that the idea and the premise of that, to take you to that level of deepness and then not follow through with that tonality is disappointing, because to achieve that tone so well in the beginning and not carry through, it was kind of a letdown. And then we see Emma, she goes to this talk show, she presents her book. The talk show host doesn't really seem that invested. And so I thought that was a good premise for maybe why, if her sister-in-law had a heartfelt reason for trying to seek out these mediums, it's like people aren't really listening to her story. They see her as a victim. She doesn't want to be a victim. She wants to take charge. I like that idea of like, this is about a woman who has lost everything and she is going to encounter and be broken down even worse. But what more can she lose? And she's going to fight back. And that's the movie that I started to create in my head, because that's what the first 15 minutes of the movie told me we were going to get. And then you get introduced to Sky's story, and she's a medium, and they're scamming this guy about his mother and trying to get extra money from him. But she is really an actual medium. She can really see the supernatural and the spiritual and the spirits and whatnot. And getting her background stories, finding out that her mother was obviously a prostitute. That was how she was getting money for her to go to school, and that she's doing this to obtain financial freedom because she doesn't want her mother to continue to have to do this. All of that was so good. It sets up very early on for us to despise her friends. They're obviously using her, taking advantage of her gifts and talents, especially the boyfriend. I don't even remember what was his name, the boyfriend. Gregory. And you despise him very early on because girlfriend is like, I want to stop. This is very dangerous. A spirit almost reached out and grabbed me, and like, I don't want to do this anymore. And he talks her into it, and so then they go into Emma's house, and things very quickly go awry. She actually hears from the spirits, and she is been put in like physical agony. At least that's what is depicted for us. And she actually hears from the spirits and learns that Emma did not, it was not a home invasion, but Emma killed her kids and her husband. At the point that we find that out, I felt like if you're going to go that direction, that was fine. But I almost feel like that reveal came too quickly. And I almost felt like perhaps the movie would have been better served if Emma did not reveal that right away. But if something was happening in the house and everyone got separated and people started dying along the way, but like we didn't know it was Emma until it came to the two of them at the end, that would have almost have been a better reveal. Likewise, we find out that her reason for killing her family was just because her husband was going broke and she didn't want to be poor anymore, and he wasn't solving the problem, but there was no way for her to know if he was going to be able to fix it. We don't find out like that he was like getting ready to go to jail for criminal activity or anything like that. Like, dude just needed to get a job, like a better job. Like, there was no real rational reason for why she did what she did, other than the fact that she wanted to be well off, and like something snapped in her when she thought that she might have to go back to the hood because they weren't going to be able to afford this nice house anymore. And then she begins to hunt down. She kills her sister-in-law. Then she kills the cameraman Randy, which I felt like, I don't know if that was a nod to Scream or not, because you have Randy in Scream, but this was not Randy in Scream at all. Then she begins to pick off the rest of the kids. At this point, we're in full-on comedy mode, right? I mean, Monique is like going through the house. She's doing a riff off of the Freddy Krueger song where she's singing like 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. She's like 1, 2, Emma's coming for you. 3, 4, gonna lock up the doors, right? Then she's talking about F them kids when she's talking about why she killed her own kids. And there's no real reason for the warm and nurturing mother that we saw at the beginning of the movie to have snapped, unless you're going to say something along the lines of like she had a psychotic break, depression, something. And we never get an answer to what would cause her to snap like that, other than like fear of being broke, of like having to get a job maybe. Oh my, like that's not enough reason to kill your own children, especially the way in which she kills her own children. It wasn't like somebody was coming for their house right that moment. It wasn't like there was an eviction notice posted on the door saying you got to get out in 3 days. So it just felt like that wasn't earned. What would have been earned would have been to have found out that like the house had been inhabited by an evil spirit, that was a mother that had killed her kids through the postpartum depression, or like something along those lines, and that spirit had like infiltrated Emma's body, and then Emma killed her kids, and now the spirit is like attacking them all, or something like that. We just don't get anything. These kids are not kids. They are whole grown people, 20-year-old college students who cannot fight off Monique. I want you to think about that for a second. I mean, Monique is a strong woman. She be working out. She be doing workout videos on Instagram. But come on, be all the way for real. There's no intelligent thought as to like, let me pick up one of these vases in this expensive behind house, a clock, something. Randy is the only one who thinks about getting a weapon. He finds a hammer. No one else gets a weapon. And there was nothing to suggest, and even in Emma's own words, that she didn't plan this out. This was not her plan. So if this wasn't in her plan, there would be things around her house that she could use, that they could use to defend themselves. They don't get anything. And at some point, at the point in the movie when they're like hiding in the rooms. Nobody like thinks of pushing a bed up against the door and like waiting this woman out, grabbing something to attack her, something. At one point, she's like standing right in front of the banister. You run out with like a bookcase in hand or something and like push that girl over the edge and let her die. Nothing. It's the most unbelievable storyline. And so it just felt like, because everything now in horror is becoming these like think pieces about society and race or socioeconomic background or what have you, that instead we missed out on opportunity to have a really, really good supernatural horror movie with a predominantly Black cast. And I can't believe that like there were no notes. Lee Daniels didn't give any notes to this guy. Like, I just don't understand. And so for me, I feel like watching Monique in this movie, it was humorous. If we knew that we were going to get this very campy movie, like, take a pause. Because watching Megan and watching the trailer for Megan, you know when you go to see Megan that it is intentionally a campy horror movie. You know that you're going to be getting laugh out loud comedy mixed in with your horror. And that is what it delivered on. It delivered on that. With this, there were no notes of that. Not even a smidgen of that in the trailer. Not even a smidgen of that in the first 20 minutes of this movie. So then to get nothing but like unbelievable antics and laughter towards the end of the movie, it just felt like it didn't deliver what it promised. It didn't give what it was supposed to have gave. So, yeah, those are my thoughts on the reading. I know tons of people did like this movie, but I just really wanted something more for Monique's first return to film. She is going to be in another Lee Daniels movie that's supposed to be coming out, The Deliverance, which is in post-production. Ingenue Ellis is going to be in it. Omar Epps is going to be in it. Glenn Close is going to be in it. So I'm thinking that that's going to be more of the heavy hitter that I was expecting from this movie. But let me know down below in the comments what you thought about the reading. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Toodles.